What is up, everybody? Welcome to Saturday. I had a good week, shaping up to a good weekend here. Thanks for joining me on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Today we're going to be talking about 3D printers, with a little bit of an introduction to 3D printers, and then we're going to break into some of the interesting things that I think make it pretty fun for ham radio. And so we're going to be walking through some prints that I like, and some other fun stuff there. So I hope I hope everything's going well. I'm in the chat. Looks like my wife's already in there, cracking wise. Thanks again for joining me. I just realized I crossed 125,000 subscribers. So just want to say again, thank you to everybody for all the support. Appreciate everybody watching and commenting and being active, not just on the channel, but in ham radio in general. Hopefully you saw my video that I posted yesterday. And so yeah, this topic means a lot to me, and so we'll talk a little bit about that as we kind of roll into the opening here. But yeah, just waiting for some people to roll in. We're just over 100 people watching so far. Super cool. Thanks for doing that. I love letting the memes roll a little bit. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but the memes rolling is fun for me. This one's one of my favorite. Is I lied, I don't have Netflix. That's another good one. All right. What is up, everybody? Again, thank you for coming on out here. Of course, the second I switched, the air conditioner started going off. So great. I hope the noise isn't too loud. I appreciate that. That's definitely what happens in my home. Anyway, got a couple of news things we're going to talk about. Let me fetch up my notes as usual. So all the links that we're going to be talking about today, I want to kind of get this out up front here, is on the Amazon side of the house. I put together and then the link is in the description. I am an Amazon associate, so I do get a kickback if you buy anything. It doesn't cost any more, but just FYI. I put some links together of kind of my favorite tools, which I'll be talking about. Oh, that's not supposed to be there. Not the buck converter, but things that I recommend kind of for getting started. We will be talking about that on one of the slides, but just wanted to mention that. Hamtactical.com is still where to go if you're looking for some merch. If you're interested in more than just the logos and the license class, you just go up to all products here, and that'll list it all out. So behind every OM is an even poorer XYL. I do like that one. My new favorite, though, is the Gain Gang. Is probably one of my favorites there. It is with that Yagi antenna, and the back says Gain Gang, which is super cool. So I like that shirt a lot. But anyway, thanks again to Leia for posting that and doing all the work behind the scenes on these. I don't do anything. Leia's done all this, so I'm super appreciative of it. Ham Radio Dude, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, buddy. All right. A couple of things. You know, I mentioned the uncertain future of ham radio, and I did link it on the Friday video that I posted, which was yesterday. Just wanted to mention the video I posted is kind of like step one, right? It's down here. It's the first step. The first step is start creating content, right? And people had really great ideas, and the comments that came in on that video were just fantastic. So I really do appreciate all the positive attitudes, positive outlook, and all the ideas in moving forward. Some of you are like 2 or 3 videos kind of down where I think I might make videos in the future on this topic, because you've already got really good ideas and have coalesced them into an actionable thought, which is like kudos. But keep in mind, from a social media aspect, you're watching me right now because you like ham radio. You found me because you kind of were already introduced to ham radio. The intention of that video yesterday was to get people to post on their social medias outside of the ham radio bubble, on your Facebook pages, on your Instagrams, Twitter, whatever, because in those areas you reach a broader audience of people, right? So that was kind of the point of that. So I hope that made sense. We're at the ground floor. We need to go up one ladder rung of the normalization of ham radio, if you get where I'm going with that. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see, what else? I think that's pretty much all I had to really hit. Oh yeah, one more thing. Socal Soda Fest is Saturday, Sunday, August 1st and 2nd. Now, you don't have to be in SoCal to participate in this. Go to your favorite summit and activate and try and do some summit to summits. Because remember, when you're activating, you're trying to activate the mountain you're on for points, but if you do summit-to-summit contacts, you get the points for chasing that summit, making a summit-to-summit contact. So it's like doubling your fun, doubling your points right off the bat. So very good stuff. Caleb McCarroll passed my tech this week. Thanks for the help. Congratulations. Jeeper Creeper, I keep looking for a new podcast. Leia is really busy with work right now. That's why we haven't been able to do another one. She's going through a really elongated process that she's got to take care of before we can get back to our regular schedule. But don't worry, we didn't forget about it. We super enjoy it. Great idea in the video. We need more content creators, even on a phone. Brilliant. Yeah, Digital Analog Ham. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Flying Squirrel VE7ODA says, always look forward to the live streams. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the super chat as well on that. Is my alert box? Yeah, it's there. Okay, good. Let's see. Hi from the Ozarks, Mike KE0OEW. Well, thank you for hopping out here. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything juicy. Just ordered my extra class study book. Congratulations, Craig. Good luck on the studies. Very good. Yes, Leia says deadlines will be done tomorrow. So very good. We can get back to some normality with our with our podcast. I will go ahead and do a beer, and I was thinking about this, and Leia kind of reminded me of this too. One of the reasons I drink beer is not to get tossed or anything, but the idea is that kind of we're just hanging out. You know, part of this world that we live in with COVID, but really it preceded that point, is you can't all necessarily get together and hang out. So, you know, we're having fun live, and I'm going to drink a bit of a beer. So you're all welcome to. If you don't drink, that's fine too. Anyway, I'm doing something that's really, really good. The Estrella Jalisco Mango Michelada by Golden Road, which is a maker of pretty good beer. So this is a mango, I think it's a lager, mixed with Clamato. And you might be going, what? But it's really good. But what I like to do is spice it up a little bit. So I'm throwing some habanero hot sauce in the bottom of this before I fill this up. A michelada, if you haven't had one, is kind of, you know, they're popular in Mexico and other countries down south of us here. But they are really, really refreshing and really, really good. And they come out like red, like that, because you got Clamato in it. But hey, I like them. Very refreshing. Everybody's like, that sounds nasty. Is it from Brazil? Brazil probably has something like that too. I'm telling you, it's a combination of salty, a little sweet, a beer. Can't go wrong. My gosh, so good. Sounds like about as delicious as orange juice and sardines. If you put a beer in it, I'd probably take a sip. Christiana Vergona K6KV, I got your extra t-shirt via link on Jason's Friday ham sale yesterday. Oh, very nice. I think I saw your message on his video. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's like a beer Bloody Mary that Leia says. Yes, indeed. That's exactly what it tastes like. I very much enjoy them. And they're not really like strong. It's kind of light. It's kind of like a shandy. Call it the more Mexican version of like a shandy. All right. Okay, well, that's enough of that. So you get the idea. Anyway, welcome again. Thank you so much. So what are we talking about today? Should I get a 3D printer? You know, I mentioned adjacent hobbies within ham radio. 3D printing is definitely an adjacent hobby to ham radio. A lot of technical folks get involved in 3D printing. They end up making their own little prints, fun stuff, and create actual usable things. Hopefully you saw my video on the tool battery system. I designed that part. It's a very simple part. It's a box. But I built it to the dimensions of the box, or the buck converter that I was putting in the box, and then made the holes for the charging ports and whatnot. And that was all done via 3D modeling software and the slicer, which we're going to talk about, and then my printer. So should you get a 3D printer for ham radio? Yes, but also maybe no. And I'll talk about that as well. And a big thank you to KG5UBB. You wouldn't download and print a Baofeng, and if anybody gets the reference to that, cheers. That was what was that? Early 2000s, something or other. I'll wait to see in the chat if anybody knows what that's from, but I'm assuming most people do. Yeah, this is good. I recommend everybody try it. You can probably get the Bud Light ones wherever you live, but if you're gonna do that, you gotta throw some like Tapatio in it. Not Tapatio, Tapatio, and what's the other one? The seasoning one. I'm sure my wife will correct me. You won't download a car. That's right, Zach got it. Piracy commercials. That's right. Okay. Hey kids, did you want another hobby? Complete with fiddling with your printer roughly 20 to 60% of the time to get a decent print? Well then, 3D printing might be for you. The reality is, boy oh boy, 3D printing has come a long, long way. It is way better than it used to be. It is much more kind of click and go. In the past, you had to really fiddle with the physical box of the printer. However, that was built for your printer. But generally, the spoiler alert is, to get good with 3D printing, you will be spending a lot of time kind of messing around. And for me, for my kind of path of 3D printing, it's been equally messing around with the hardware of the printer and messing around with the software involved, which is called the slicer in most cases, which again, I'll talk about. But it's a fun bit of hobby. You can really go down the rabbit hole. People collect printers, and we can talk about why later. I will do a call-in portion of the show, because certain printers do different things than other printers. Even if they are the same type of printer, they are, not necessarily perform the same way, if that makes sense, or do the same things. So there are multiple types of 3D printers. As far as the ones that I own, and the ones I'm going to be talking about today, and the ones that are most prevalent in the market, it is the Fused Deposition Modeling Printer, or FDM. And there are 4 major types of FDM printers. The Cartesian, which is the kind of traditional boxish square one with the bottom square plate, rectangular plate possibly, that the prints go on. There is the Delta, which is a big tower with 3 kind of tower arms to it, and it has 3 independent heads that move the print head around. Delta printers usually can go up very high, so you can print things that are very tall, which is good. Polar is an interesting one that you don't see that much of. Polar is actually a rotating circular build plate, and it also moves in and out while it turns, and that allows you to actually get some pretty simple printers, because there's not that many moving parts, not that many stuff to control, although there aren't a lot of Polar printers that I've seen on the market, and I don't know about the complexity of making them work as far as feeding them the appropriate file. I've never played with Polar. For all intents and purposes, for today's talk, we're going to be talking about Cartesian and Delta, Cartesian most specifically. And then the last one is robotic. They actually hooked up like manufacturing robots with print heads, and they'll actually go in there and print out 3D prints, which is pretty cool. I would say that that's probably not that possible for the average person. David, is it Stussy? Stussy? I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Thanks, Josh. Got my technician license celebrating with the HRCC technician pint glass. Hey, very good. Thank you for ordering that. I appreciate it. Right on. Let's see. Ham Radio Dude said, best decision I ever made was ditching my Wanho and getting an Ender Pro 3 with mods. With mods, key point. I rarely have to fiddle with it. We'll be talking about the Ender 3. All right. So 3D printing in a nutshell, and this is for everybody who doesn't know. Again, I'm assuming you're a ham radio person and maybe not a 3D printing person yet. If you already know this, I apologize. We're going to cover a little bit about what you already know. So to create a 3D print, your printer is going to extrude very thin layers, right, on top of each other. over and until you build up three-dimensionally. So you'll build out the bottom layer, right, whatever the shape of the thing is, and then go to the next layer and the next layer and next layer. And generally the finer prints, the finer quality of print will be based off of the layer dimensions, right? So the smaller you can get the layer dimensions, the more accurate your nozzle can be while still, you know, going smaller, which is tough. You'll get really good high-quality prints, but sometimes it takes a little longer if you do that. The nozzle of the printer is basically extruding molten filament, which is a spool of thin plastic, like it looks like wire, but it's just plastic. And basically that molten filament, plastic in a lot of cases, sticks to the base plate and any previous layers, and that's what allows it to build up. The printers pretty much all use stepper motors to control the articulation of the X, Y, and Z that it needs to move through dimensionally to produce a part. And again, it's going layer by layer. So it'll print the whole bottom layer, and then it'll come up to the next layer, and it'll keep going and going until it's done. Let's see. Usually, most of them either the bed will move down, which is the case of my 3D printer, or the head will move up, which is case of something like the Ender and the Prusas. The head actually moves up. My printer, the bed moves down, which is the opposite, but it's the same end result. And when you get right down to it, 3D printing is basically just really, really accurate layering of like hot glue. So if you ever talk to somebody about it, that's really what it comes down to if you want to explain it to them. All right, so a nutshell continued. So you get the physical aspect of what a printer does and how it functions, I hope. It is a layer-by-layer three-dimensional printing using plastic or some other type of material. But to do that, what you start out with, which is a three-dimensional model, and I'll hold one up. So this was a three-dimensional box that somebody modeled. Somebody used computer software to render this in this, you know, three-dimensional space of whatever they were using. By the way, I use the program Fusion 360. I forgot to mention that. That is the program I use. So they modeled this box. Now, you can't just throw the model into your printer. It won't make any sense to the printer. So you use another piece of software called a slicer. And if you're probably already getting where I'm going with this, is if it's printing layer by layer and working its way up, well, how do you get those layers? Well, you slice it. And what slices it? A slicer does. So a slicer allows you to set individual settings for the dimensions of the first layers, for instance. How hot the temperature of the extruded filament will be. How fast the print head moves. How thick the layers are. These are all things you control in the slicer. So if you go back to what I was saying kind of in the beginning of this video or this stream, you're going to spend a lot of time potentially fiddling around because you're going to be in the slicer a lot. Because, again, as you get used to your printer's going to behave differently than other people's printer. And depending on the type of filament you feed it, even down to the type of brand of filament you feed it, could have very different results. All right, let's see. Yeah, so basically once you take your slicer, slice up your model, it goes into a file, you put the file into your printer and click a button or remotely control it via software, and then it should start off and go down the road. So with a little wherewithal and a little bit of knowledge and a pretty decent amount of time in the front end, you can dream up an item, a device, a thing, design it in a 3D modeling tool like Fusion 360, and then you can create a STL file, which is what all printers take generally. They take other files too, but STL is the primary one, at least what I use. Put it into your printer, and you can spit out a really nice little 3D print. So my current printer is the one you see here. It is the Flash Forge Creator Pro. It is a box for all intents and purposes. The door closes, so it's a sealed box. It is a dual print head printer. In hindsight, I never really used the second head at any one time, although I could if I so wanted to. In fact, I'm going to eventually. I just haven't got there yet. I did not print the KX2 that you see there, but the blue kind of build plate, that is a heated build plate, which has important things that Yeah, I use the KX2 for an understanding of size, so you get a good reference of how big these things can be. Some of them can be very, very big. In general, if you're looking to get into 3D printing, again, this is in general, there are printers that have come out that kind of upset this, shake this up a little bit. The more you spend, you're gonna have to fiddle with it less. The ones that are a little bit more expensive are going to yield better prints. They are going to be more consistent, and they're going to generally allow you to get more prints done before having to kind of lay hands on them again. And I'll mention this right up front because we will talk about it, but it's important to mention right now. In fact, I'll go back for this. The build plate that the KX2 is sitting on must be level. All things must be relatively level to the print base, to the print head. And you actually go through a process called leveling the print bed, oddly enough. And to do it, there are 3 knurled screws underneath that print bed. And there's a whole process you go do by moving the print head around until you find the level for that print bed. I have found, my experience again, the better the printer, the longer prints or the amount of prints you'll have to go before leveling it again. Ryan Jacob says manual print beds can be frustrating. They can be, again, my experience, we're talking about my experience here. They can be if you have a cheaper printer. The good printers, the more expensive one, the one we're going to talk about, generally you have to level it once in maybe 100 prints, 50 to 100 prints, which is pretty good, assuming you don't go move it around or do anything like that. So that's fantastic. So I recommend that. Anyway, so what was the one I was going to recommend? Hey, I just got done showing you my whiz-bang Flash Forge Creator Pro. So what do I recommend if you want to not have to fuss with anything and get a printer that just works, creates really, really solid prints? It would be the Prusa i3 Mk3S. It is $750, so not a cheap printer per se, but it's definitely not as expensive as some of the other printers that command a price that I feel you get similar capability and similar quality out of the Prusa in compared to printers that are over $1,000. So the advantages of the Prusa is high quality prints, and it is itself high quality. It is very strong community around it. There's a Facebook group that I'm a member of because I had a Prusa cloned for a while. They're highly modifiable, which I'll show you in the image kind of what that means. And you don't generally have to tinker with it. However, you can. And so this is what the Prusa looks like. Any part on the printer that's orange is a part that is technically printed. So when somebody says print a printer, you can print a printer, at least parts of a printer. So lots of the Prusa can actually be printed in case it wears out and you need to replace it. The ability to print parts like that allows you to change certain things on the printer by just printing a part and swapping the part. That was to the Facebook user. Thanks, Facebook. Yeah, I apologize. Facebook's a little wonky. I've got integration of Instagram, I'm sorry, Twitch, YouTube, and Discord. I can see everybody's names when they're on Discord, but Facebook, it just shows up as Facebook user, so I apologize. But I had a little sip there with you. So this is what the Prusa looks like. I'll talk about it in a bit, but Loyal has one of these. Kevin Dimmick, anything better than Pet G? I'll let Loyal answer that. So by the way, guys, not only do we have definitely one of the best administrative teams in ham radio, no question, regarding ham radio topics, we also have a really solid 3D printing admin team. And I think a good portion of the admins of Ham Radio Crash Course all have printers, and we're going to talk about them, and they're going to, through their words, I'm going to tell you what they think about them. So are you not ready to take the plunge into 3D printer ownership? That's okay. Generally, everybody has a 3D printer friend, I've found, and they really like to talk about 3D printing, so you probably already know exactly who that is. I definitely know people at work that are super, super into 3D printing, and we talk about it often. There are local maker communities and hacker spaces. Obviously, we can't really go there right now due to the human malware virus. But that is a good place to find information about 3D printing, and really you find out really quick what good printers are, because if it's a printer that's in a makerspace or a hacker community or anything like that, they are getting used a lot, and you'll find out really fast how good the durability of different printers are. If you see them swap through printers and all of a sudden they have one that's been there for like over a year, you could probably write down that that brand, because it is likely a high quality printer. And that's kind of what happens. The more you use them, little things start to degrade, and that's what predicates you having to kind of futz with them and work on them and change them. YouTube is fantastic for 3D printing. There are a number of really, really good YouTube channels that have given me most of the information that I have before I went off and purchased my printers. And what's really, really good is not just you have like personalities and people who know a lot about 3D printing that do reviews and post how-tos. A lot of the companies that make the printers post their videos on YouTube so that you can follow along the very precise instructions for the printer you want to buy or that you already have. So, you know, the Ender 3, for instance, and we'll get to it. I promise we're going to get to the Ender 3. The Ender 3 has a ton of videos because it's a very inexpensive printer. And if possible, if you really want something nicely made, like really nicely made, that'll have a bit better longevity, there are 3D printing services you can use. You can send a file, a printing file, an STL file, to a person or, you know, this whatever this group, and they'll print out your part in the filament material you want, so that you can have, you know, something that's more durable outside, something that's higher quality. You get the idea. Okay, so you have a printer. Let's say you went down the printer road. What do you do now? If you're kind of new to the whole thing, what's the next step? Generally, printers come with like a test print. I recommend you follow the test print and do that for sure. Get used to doing the test print. But after that's done, I really recommend you hit up Thingiverse, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. Okay, so here's Thingiverse, and I just did a search for ham radio on the top here. And there are just a wealth of things, right? So this ham radio ground plane 20, 30, 40 antenna. This is, if you think about it, it's a very similar setup as a Wolf River coil, but it's something that you 3D print yourself. That's the main body of it. You wrap wire around the body there. Then you add the wire, right? You add the coax. You add a flagpole. And let's see, do we have one of it deployed? No, there's a video, though, so that's helpful. So Thingiverse is a fantastic spot for 3D printing ham radio stuff. So another ham radio Windham antenna. That's the center mount point for a Windham antenna is 3D printed, and you just mount the parts on top of it. This is a good one. Kind of a fixed dipole setup. Again, you're printing that white portion in the middle. Now, I'm not going to talk about it on this stream because this is a ham radio stream. But there are definitely 3D printed lowers out there. I'll just mention that. My wife just came in. She freaked me out. Now, we have a group for the ham radio crash course on Thingiverse. It existed before I posted my 3D print, but my box is here, the dual output buck converter box. I don't know why I picked the avatar I did. Can I zoom in on that? I can't, can I? No, I can't. Basically, it's like a coyote getting pepper sprayed. I don't know where I got it, but it was in the folder when I had to pick the things. Anyway, that's my 3D print that's up there. It has no prints, which is nice. No makes, no remixes. So I think that's pretty funny. Okay. So definitely experiment. The cool thing about 3D printing is that it's an experimentation device. You're encouraged to play around with it, have fun, and they're really fun. You can make all kinds of great stuff with them. I don't know why I have a coyote getting blasted, but hey, works for me. Okay, so tips when starting out. The big issue that people have when they're starting out with 3D printing is that the first layer will not stick to the bed. The nozzle kind of floats around and it builds up this like ball of hot filament, or a couple layers will print, but then it'll like break loose, so it'll fold up and all that kind of stuff. Generally, when in doubt, level the print bed again. That's the big thing I always say, is just re-level the print bed. Doesn't matter when you last did it. Do it again and pay a lot of attention to it. Temperature settings. So again, that slicer we talked about, right? You go through here and you're setting the temperature the filament is extruding. Well, sometimes you need to adjust the bed temperature to a different setting and the nozzle temperature to a different setting. And the more you play with it, swinging 5 or 10 C either direction, because most of them are in Celsius, at least out of the box, that's the default. I found that seems to help. And then sometimes, although I try to avoid this, is you can add things to the print bed which will give you a really, really strong adhesion. In fact, there are some print beds that just require a little bit of extra effort. In fact, it was Smokin' Ape. Smokin' Ape did a really, really cool print. It was, I don't know how many prints he actually had through his printer before he did this. But he made a stand for his G90. Came out great. I believe he used a little bit of Aquanet spray on the build plate. Bam, it stuck right to it. So I'm glad I could help him out a little bit, and he got a really good print out of it. So again, fiddling with slicers. We talked about slicers a lot, but it's important to kind of go through them. So you take things slow. I generally follow kind of a scientific method of only changing one thing at a time. I do the same thing when I'm troubleshooting computers and radios and cars, anything that doesn't work. I try to do small, incremental, variable changes until I get the desired result instead of a lot of changes. Because then if it works, you're like, well, what made it work? I don't know. So take things slow with slicers. It's totally, I've had sessions where I will level the build plate, and then I will just do maybe 1 or 2 layers of the print a couple of times until I feel really, really solid about it. And I'll just stop the print. I'll use a scraper and pop it off and do another one and do another one until I get like really confident. I'm like, yeah, these are the temperature settings I want. This is the first layer speed that I want. I'll just keep kind of messing with it, and I'll be really good. So play with the temperature of the nozzles and the build plates. Start out with what matches the filament label. So filaments are on a spool, and there's always a label, and it usually has a recommended temperature that it needs to be within. So start out on the cool side, and then just incrementally work your way up until it's a lot hotter. And you'll find somewhere in the middle there where you'll probably get the best print. Layer thickness. So generally I will aim for a thicker first layer, and then I'll thin it out for the remaining layers. And that first layer thickness is really just to get a good adhesion. Infill, if you see, infill is the structure inside the walls of whatever you print. What's a good infill? Oh, I've got something with infill. Hold on. Oh, never mind. I'll just have to hold it up then. Can you see this? You can. So this screw here it's not hollow. It has a honeycomb design to give structure and rigidity. And because it's not really worth it to just make this 100% filled with filament, right? 100% solid. It would be a huge waste because it doesn't have to really be that strong. PLA isn't going to be that strong anyway to be used as a screw like this per se. So you usually have some percentage of infill. Generally, I always tell people is go with the 40 to 60 rule. 40 to 60% infill is generally good. And then nozzle speed, I personally slow the nozzle speed way down on the first layer, and then I will let it kind of go to normal or whatever default is after that. This is a picture of a slicer. This is the slicer for my my Creator Pro. Your slicer will look different, but it will be similar. In fact, I have it on the default setting or the basic setting most of the time because I really don't need to muck with it that much. It's a pretty good printer. And that actually, that object you see on the left is that antenna portion for that that kind of Wolf River ground plane antenna. All right, so filament. I kind of talked about filament. Filament has like a variety of compositions these days. There, generally, all printers will support at least PLA and ABS plastics. There are others that will do flexible materials. There are some that will do, wood, carbon fiber, flexible materials. There's even metallic type filament that's out there. You generally have to have a printer that can support that. It's usually a part of the head, the extrusion nozzle, and how hot they can get. So PLA is generally vegetable based. It smells kind of good when it's printing. It kind of has a maple syrup kind of smell to it. And the parts are biodegradable. So if they get lost, broken, whatever, you can throw them out and it's not a big deal. Although you might not want to put them in a landfill per se because those get capped off and it's like a sarcophagus of trash, but they generally will degrade. ABS, on the other hand, is a more hardcore plastic that can live outside and not degrade. It will last a lot better, but it smells horrible, and you don't really want to be in a room with a lot of PLA cooking off, because that's literally what's happening is the heat, it's extruding it, and you get that smell all through your house, and that's not really good. So generally, ABS is more robust than PLA, but it's harder to print for most people. Your printer is usually suggested to have a closed box because it allows some retention of heat or a kind of creating a uniform heat in the print space. And you definitely need a heated bed plate if you're going to use ABS, because basically you heat the bed plate up, the layers get printed, and what will happen is you start working your way up the print and the bottom edges will start warping up. And that is a byproduct of the ABS cooling before you're done. So you want to make sure you try to keep the heat up on the bottom of the print while you're at the top of the print. And generally that can help you avoid warping. But that super happens. Photo degrade. There you go. Andy Cowley asked if there's one for UV so it glows. I believe there is. Family in the Woods says, I'm coming in late, but there are 3D printed buildings. There are. There's like, the nozzle's like this big and it shoots out concrete. Or not shoots, but it extrudes concrete. So if you have a printer that can basically do different filament types, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. Like I said, literally wood. It's like a wood pulp that's encased in some kind of plastic, and it gets heated up and it extrudes like a regular, similar to regular filament, and you can make a little wooden sculpture, if you will. So very cool stuff. Try to place your printer in a well-ventilated area. Be safe, because ABS in particular is not good to breathe. Okay, so what I consider my personal required tools for printing, I use a small level like the one I have shown. And again, all these are linked on Amazon. The link is in the description for my A store where I have most of this stuff. The level is like for when I'm doing like particularly fine leveling of not just the print bed like I mentioned, but the body of the printer itself. Sometimes I like to go in there and make sure that it's as level as I can get it, the whole thing, because then it makes leveling the bed a little bit easier. I use that wire brush a lot for cleaning up and around the nozzle in case you get like a runaway print where it's not adhering to the bed plate or the print plate. It will sometimes pool up and then cake around the nozzle. That is a gun cleaning brush. Those work amazing. So just use that. Blades. I like Irwin blades. They're what I use in my utility knives, but I also have a couple that are in that little blue tray you see above it. I printed that little blue tray. It lives on my printer. And I throw a couple of blades in there. The scraper, it's not a bladed scraper, the thing that says number 4 on it. But those bladed, it's not sharpened, but it has a blade, if you will. I use that for popping off prints. It usually works great. Now, my secret pro tip that I recommend everybody do if you're going to get a printer is go get automotive feeler gauges. And that's what I have pictured below. automotive feeler gauges are fantastic for leveling the print head and the print bed because they are metal. They don't have a problem if you want to do a hot level of the nozzle. A hot level means you heat up the bed and you heat up the nozzle to the temperature you're going to do your print, and then you do a level. You throw that feeler gauge in there, it's fine. You have multiple different millimeter-based tenths of a millimeter that you can go down to for leveling. They work really, really well, and they're really inexpensive. So go buy yourself some feeler gauges. Okay, so rounding out the HRCC staff picks, Ethan, KE7DUX, has an Ender 3. He just got it, but he was looking into it for a while. It was $320, and I think that was a special price. It's on Amazon right now if you're interested. Total in that week on the printer, parts, gear and upgrades. So he did have to buy extra stuff, but in general, it's still a pretty inexpensive printer. The cost is cheap. It does a great job for the price. Lots of mods and videos in the community. Cons. It's referred to as the Baofeng of 3D printers. Oh, the printer was $190, Ethan said. Oh, I see. So the 320 was after all the printer, the parts, gear, upgrades, etc. Thank you, Ethan. So I should probably update that. $190 for the printer, so that's a smoking deal. Cons, can be hard to set up. Lots of measuring, may not be square initially. More of a problem, yeah, for perfectionists. Oh, yeah, see, that's the con item 3. Lots of small things that will work just fine for the first month or two, but will end up swapping out for a better part later on. Yeah, so, again, some parts on 3D printers will end up breaking, and you just print the part. Of course, you've got to have the foreknowledge that your part's going to break, but generally it's recommended when you get a new printer or whatever, print up a bunch of the parts that you can replace yourself by making 3D printed parts, and then just keep those on hand, and if something breaks, you just swap it out for the part that you made. And that is the Ender 3, the Baofeng of printers. Again, that's one where the base plate stays fixed and the print head moves up. All right, Loyal, very active in 3D printing. His are always going, and I know his family is. Surprised Josh does have a few of the Baofeng. I don't have one. I don't have an Ender. The Baofeng of printers is an accurate term, though. Loyal said sometimes they randomly go on sale for $170, so that's fantastic. I heard the last round was on Woot.com, and that was like yesterday or the day before. So Woot.com must be following my channel. I don't know. I'm just kidding. So Loyal has a Prusa I3 Mk3, about $800, which we talked about. Super, super good printer. Great support, great instructions, great software, great safety features, which he had to explain to me what safety features are in a printer yesterday. The one I had, it was a Prusa clone, did not have safety features. It was a Rams board. It had one of those crazy Chinese power supplies. In fact, it was the one that had the, it wasn't the capacitor. It was the, anyway, it doesn't matter. It was just broken. It was just totally burnt up and broken, but the power supply still worked. You still had the hot leads to it. It was crazy. And then he also has an Ender 3, which was $179 when he bought it. It's the Baofeng of printers. Takes about 3 hours to get the hang of it and working, and now supports the Prusa slicer, which is very good. USCS is shit. That's funny. All right, so Prusa's on the left and the Ender's on the right. So combo breaker, we got Dominic. Dominic has a Rostock Max V2. The V4 is the current one. Now, this is a Delta printer, and you're going to see an image after it, which will explain what a Delta printer really does. It has a huge print area of 280 millimeters diameter and 300 millimeters height. Lots of support, possible dual extrusion, but it's a Bowden-based system, which is, again, this is just an introduction to 3D printing. It's not a hard deep dive. It does auto bed leveling, which is nice. I have found, again, if you're buying a pretty quality printer, your bed leveling is very easy, and it stays level for a very long time. Auto bed leveling is just one extra thing to break, from my point of view. So it is very hackable, 100 micron nominal resolution. Kits are pretty straightforward for the most part. Looks skookum as frigs, and we know where that comes from. The cons is it's expensive. Calibration is a pain because it's a delta. It's a little bit harder. Uses a Bowden. A Bowden is where your stepper motor is separated from the print head, the heated end. Normal printers, the stepper motor is right on the nozzle, so you can deal with issues with that immediately. With the Bowden, you're separating via some tube or something like that, where the filament gets in and then gets extruded. So they can be a little wonky. Some software slices things are weird. G-code isn't exactly your normal XYZ, right? And it's big. So how big? He says 7 out of 10. Would recommend. How big? Big. They're big. They are no joke. See, those are 3 arms, and it basically will pivot one down to skewer it to the left or right, and it'll adjust all 3 of them kind of in an up and down fashion, and that's what moves the print head around. They're fascinating machines, but yeah. Okay, so references and notes, because it's important to kind of send you off here. Do a lot of research before buying. If you're not trying to make 3D printing a full-time hobby, go with well-understood, well-documented, and supported printers. The Amazon Black Friday deals can be bad. For instance, the printer that I had before the one I have now was a Prusa clone, and it was a very, very poor printer. The body, the frame of it was made of plexiglass, Lexan. And it just would not hold level for anything. It was a very, very bad printer. I hated it. Should not have bought it. Yeah, the resin. Oh, no, I'm not going to talk about resin printers, 8060M, Dennis. That's a different type of printer. We're not covering that today. But yeah, try to, again, if it turns out the printer you were looking at buying does show up on Amazon and you are interested in getting that particular printer, and it just so happens that it's available to buy on a discount, that's fine. But if it's just some like, hey, it's a $200 printer, check it out, and you've never heard of it before, there's probably likely a reason, because it's probably been panned in the community and it's not a great printer. The Epic Tome of Knowledge. Where is the Epic Tome of Knowledge? Oh, is that what happened when the tab closed? Okay, hold on. Okay, so the Epic Tome of Knowledge is, I think I linked it in the description. It's this Simplify 3D website. So this is a fantastic website. When I was starting out in 3D printing, I was on here a lot because I would get these weird things that happen with that freaking Prusa clone. This is really bad. Prusa's great. The company is great. Their printers are great. But they got clones of them out there that are kind of cheap Chinese crap, I'll be honest. That should be the Baofeng of printers. But anyway, so whatever has happened to your printer, right, layer separation, overheating. I had a lot of that with that Prusa clone. Weak infill. See the cross hatchings here? You click on that. It should be crossed hatch. It should be really firm cross hatches. That's really weak, right? Poor infill. So you can go through here and like diagnose all the program or problems you have with your printers, and it'll actually recommend like what to do about it, common solutions, and how to handle it. So yeah, overheating, generally that was a problem with too much temp on, too much temp on the nozzle, and also I didn't have sufficient cooling. So the fan wasn't able to come up fast enough to move enough air to keep the PLA cool. And the head ended up kind of like going too fast, so it was building up, and everything was still hot as it was going up, so it just kind of like blobbed down. Not great. So that's the Epic Tome of Knowledge. Make sure you go to that Simply 3D website, and the link should be in the description. When in doubt, level your build plate. And Thingiverse, I'll post a link to that as well. Thingiverse has a test print that are 2.2 millimeter squares or something like that, and you print 5 of them. one in the center of the build plate, and then one on each corner. You print them all, then you pull them up off the printer, and you use a caliper to size how thick they are. If they don't come out at 0.2, then you have a leveling problem. This will not affect everybody the same, but for some people, depending on where you live, you can have a problem with filament. Keep the filament in its packaging until you need it. Only then do you pop it out and put it on your printer. Always store them in a dry place, and if you live in a humid environment, get them on there and start printing. Thingiverse is free, yes, for anybody asking. KD9PBQ. I will show you my prints in a second here. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to show some of my fun stuff. I will now show off some of my ham radio prints, because that's kind of what this is all about, right? All right, I must go to the other side of the recording studio here. Please bear with me while we move. I tried to replicate what a real 3D printer's space looks like. You'll notice I've strewn the area with leftover filament pieces, because once you get into 3D printing, you too will have a space that looks like this. You'll have little parts. Look at this little gear that did not become a thing. Oh boy, little blue thing, great. Literally, the area around my printer is absolutely laden with just stupid little pieces of filament that didn't complete. Yeah, Oklahoma ham radios, like, that is the truth, indeed. So probably my favorite print so far has been the dial, and there's a lot of different dials you can get for radios, for my KX2. And it really solves the problem that the KX2 has, which is no way to rapidly spin it. So that was like print number 1. The first thing I did was print that. Print number 2 is the headphone clamp. So this clamps on the side of a shelf, and what I do with this, so this is the shelf here, so this is the top. I put all my hand mics, my programming cables. I actually have a couple of these. I lay them over the top of this, and that hangs onto that for me. So this is just screws into the top. This is printed in... No, this wasn't. This was a separate piece. Anyway, it printed like this. So this is the top. Oop. Oh my God! What's happening? I'm losing my mic. Hold on. That's not good. Why was my mic coming at me? Come at me, Mike. Oh man, that's not good. Will that hold? Oh my God. Not good. Okay. This mic stand's a little heavy to go off in this direction, but hopefully you're still hearing me. Yeah, you're good. Okay, so this is the top. This is the bottom. You can tell by the way it printed. The quality is different. No, I have a mic holder, but it's just too big. Another box I printed. This one, if it opens, there we go, has a battery for the KX2. This is kind of a redundant thing. You don't really need this, but it's nice to have. Obviously, the box I made for my buck converter and battery solution. There are the Spade connectors. Somebody told me these are not automotive Spade connectors, and they told me some esoteric name. Okay. Wire winders that also double as antenna insulators. So you can kind of attach your antenna to one of these sides, wrap the wires, and then you got 2 if you want to do a dipole. This is a cool one. This one was actually a really, really smart print. I didn't make this. Nano VNA has little case, right? Little case for it. You actually have to take the panels off the back. And it's got a little door. And in the door, you keep the loads. So the open, the short, and the 50 ohm dummy load. So you just keep those in there, and it kind of locks it into place so you never lose it. That is a very, very good print. Very smart print. I love that. Now, the only problem with the print is it doesn't have enough space for putting the wires somewhere. So maybe we need a bottom row or something where we can get all of it in one thing. That'd be nice. I already showed this off, but I'm going to mention this again because this is one of the really strong super advantages of 3D printing. This printed as one piece. This hinged portion, all printed together. It's called print in place. It printed like this. So let me dump this stuff out. So this was the bottom. The door printed on the bottom. So it was a little gap. This whole thing printed. This is the base plate. You're looking at it upside down. And the whole thing printed as one piece. And then you take it off of the build plate and you kind of give it a little pull and the hinge breaks loose and it's a box. So print in place parts are like legit. Super, super legit. Wire winders. You can never have enough wire winders. ABS wire winders are better. This is just a PLA thing I printed. And I kind of wanted to show you quality here. I printed this last night. So this is the quality of my printer. It's all great, and then you get over here and you inevitably have a little adhesion problem. But it was okay. You get that every once in a while. Kind of looks like a weird alien face. My KX1 I built or printed. Again, I got this off of Thingiverse. I printed a lid for it, for the KX1. So there's a little divot for the dial. It's sized appropriately. Snaps into place. And generally holds it. Sometimes you have to go in there and heat the legs up and then squeeze them a little bit. And then works better. And let's see, what else did I print? This is just some examples. The rest of the stuff is like at work because it's just fun stuff. The CE19 has a print too, so you can get that in there. This actually needs to be installed a bit differently, but then you can put a lid on it so you've got it sealed up. I just haven't completed it yet, but pretty good. Countersunk holes for the screws. Can you see that? Wow, this camera is killing it today. Thought that was your your superhero mask. And then I think this is my last one. Pretty successful print as well, although it got some glue on it. That's what that is. This is the antenna for the NOAA receive. Here's your connection point, and then you've got the dipole to allow you to receive NOAA frequencies. Yeah. What else? There was something else I was going to show. Oh, yeah. Hold on. I do have a quality example of what you can expect from a high-quality print, like somebody who does it as kind of a way to make side money. So let me put the KX2 back here. Hold on one second. Don't mind my head. So this is really good quality. I realized it. I looked over at the side of my computer. And I was like, oh, a subscriber sent this to me. I apologize profusely. I don't remember who sent it to me. If you were in the chat, I super apologize. Please speak up and let me give you a shout out. I know I gave you a shout out when you sent it to me, but so this was printed. This is one printer, one job, three different types of filament, not different types, different colors. So the printer is switching the filament to do the different parts of this, and the quality is very good. Very, very good. Nicely done. Oh, W5WJC. I don't know if he sent it to me or he was the one that printed it. So there you go. Greg TI2GBB. Can you model and build insulator for Yagi antenna projects? Yes. Yes, you can. There are... let me switch back over to my seat here because I'm going to open up the phone lines. There are 3D prints for tape measure Yagis to go on PVC pipes. There are 3D prints for wire Yagis that are the center insulators. And center insulator for the driven elements, but also insulators for the parasitic elements. All right, what time we got? Oh, wow, that was like I guess I'm getting good at this whole live stream thing. I want to do a call in, so we'll open the call lines. Let's see. Is the phone still going?
Conference muted.
So I'm watching for questions. If anybody has any questions, let me grab my beer here. Again, cheers everybody. So this is, you know, it's fun hanging out with you all. I appreciate you coming out here to watch. I hope this is informative. Anybody want to call in with a question? I'm happy to take it. And if I can't answer it, we will be going to Discord after this. A bunch of the admins will be there. The admins probably all know more about 3D printing than I do, so we should be able to answer your question. David Fuller, don't get the big head. I don't have a big head. I'm being funny. It's a joke. I'm proud of myself that I could get it to land on an hour like that. So Discord is our chat that we go to after the live stream. And, oh, by the way, anybody can call in on any topic. It doesn't have to be 3D printing related. Just make it open to anything. The Discord is a chat room with voice chat capability, and so we always do an after chat over there. It's a lot of fun because it's fairly free form. Oh, yeah, thank you for the likes, by the way. Thank you, Roberto. Big props for the great 48th state. Good info and great... Hey, thank you. Thank you, Go Hard Gibson. Hashtag Go Hard Gibson. What material do you make Lego hard functional parts out of? Probably ABS. I guess you could use PETG. Max VE3 MWE. Has anyone used electrically conductive filament for an antenna? Not that I know of. Considering the temperatures that the filaments come out in, it could be a lot. VA3 FUC. Good call. Said PLA for Lego. That's fine. PLA's fine, but ABS is going to last longer. Stephen Hatfield, great point. In fact, let me go back up here because I want to show you that Thingiverse page again. Where is it? There it is. So very similar to one that I printed for my KX1, there is a lid for the mountain topper. So that's wonderful. Yes, question on Discord. There are printers that do PETG. I believe my printer does PETG. That was one of the reasons I got it, is it handles a lot of types. Although I only use 2, and most of the time it's PLA. Jonathan Canfield! Is that your call sign that's on the back, or is it the person that printed it? Jonathan Canfield, I'm sorry, I forgot. I looked over. I wasn't planning on showing it. I wasn't. Somebody asked, hey, what does the quality look like on parts that someone makes, you know, professionally? And that's it. So Jonathan Canfield, again, thank you for that. There you go. PETG can run on any printer with a heated bed. No case needed. There you go. An open bed is fine. Okay, use PETG on the Ender 3. I made a case for my Nano VNA, but it was not good, so I canned it. Yeah, U is main to nowadays. I love PETG. Yeah, PETG is very good. PETG, I believe, is the same material that milk jugs are made out of, like the plastic milk jugs. The storage box, the orange one that I have. Ooh, I don't know where I. The problem with searching for Thingiverse with storage boxes, you're going to get a lot back. Oh, it was the first thing. Here we go. So that's the Thingiverse. I'll post it in the chat. HDPE. There you go. Milk jugs. Radio waves. You generally want to use ABS for outdoor products. Yeah, in the heat, as Max VE3 MWE says, or PETG. My print, so this was, why can't I read your name? Bulbasnore. My print of an 891 head bracket was PETG to wristband car to withstand car temps. Yeah, indeed. Todd, KJ7JHH, thank you for the super chat, my friend. How about that mic hanger? Yes, this is 3D printed. More likely it's CNC'd. Yeah, didn't do anything with this. Yeah, so let me be specific. There are a lot of filament materials out now. ABS and PLA was kind of like the first prominent ones. PETG is obviously out there now, and it's really good. I've never used it, but what was there's nylon, and there was another one that was mentioned for outside parts. ASA or nylon for outdoor stuff. So yeah. Yeah, but what are Canadian milk bags made out of? That's right. All right. Okay, well, you know, we don't have to have a call-in. It's no big deal. I appreciate that this chat's a little not ham radio related, so I get that. But if you want to continue the conversation on 3D printing, but it can be anything, we're going to head over to Discord right now. So feel free to join us over there. Oh, there we go. It almost dialed me out. Oh, maybe I should do that. My son just lost his first tooth. Maybe I should 3D print him a replacement fake tooth. All right, let me throw it over to the Patreon. So big thank you to all my patrons out there. Really, without your support, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things I do. I think I mentioned this before to you all. So thank you for the support. Newsletter is underway, so I should get that out here next week. And we have a patron picks to start voting for because we're about halfway through the month. And that's usually my cue to get the vote out to you so that we can pick a topic for... So, I'll tease this too. The first weekend of August, most likely I will have Mike Glover on the live stream. And we will be talking about radio stuff with Mike. So that will be the first week. That's just because of his schedule. So the following week will be the patron picks episode. But I'll get the vote up early so that everybody gets a chance to vote. And again, thank you to all the patrons, but listed here are the producers. Thank you so much for the extra support there. Zach has posted the links to the Discord. Looks like Megano, love your videos, planning to buy a 3D printer. Oh, yeah, like I said, this is kind of an adjacent hobby space that we're obviously there because you can see the 3D prints that exist on Thingiverse that are ham radio related. Mark Hernan, thank you for the super chat. Pair character lifting some weights, saying keep it up. That's funny. That's what the chat converter says when you see it. Yes. Your printer will have to support the temperatures that you throw at it. You can't just throw a new type of filament into a printer and expect that it will work, because it won't. Ham radio crash course. No POTA this weekend. Don't think so. We'll see. We've got an event. Well, we've got something going on with the YouTubers tomorrow. But if I have time, there is a park up the street. Thanks for the show. From Costa Rica, 73s. See you in the FT8 on 40 meters tonight, probably. Okay. Okay, well, that will do it. Again, everybody, thanks so much for watching the episode today. Post below, post your comments. Let me know what you think about 3D printing. I'd like to see kind of your creations that you come up with. If you want to, post them on the Discord. Join us over there and post them. Or post them on the Facebook group, Ham Radio Crash Course. The links for all that are in the description. Again, anything you're looking at that I mentioned during the show, there is a link to Amazon, so you can check it out there. All right, I am Josh, Ki6NAZ, and I'll talk to you later. See ya. Find the button. Goodbye.